What does it mean to truly die? If a living being ceases to exist, but everything it ever was, its memories, its instincts, its decisions, is perfectly recorded and transferred into a computer, continuing to run, to respond, to act, is it really gone? Or is it still alive, just in another form? And if it is still functioning, still reacting to the world, what exactly is the difference between that and life? For a long time, questions like these belonged to science fiction. They lived in movies, in novels, in distant imagination. But today, for the first time in human history, this question is no longer fiction. It has become real. And strangely, it didn't begin with humans. It began with a fruit fly. Recently, a breakthrough quietly shook the scientific world. People called it the cyber fruit fly. At first glance, it doesn't seem that impressive. A tiny digital creature crawling across a screen, moving its legs, reacting to stimuli, navigating a virtual space. But what makes it truly unsettling is not how real it looks, it's how it was created. Because scientists didn't train it, they didn't feed it data, they didn't teach it how to behave. Instead, they did something far more radical. They took the actual wiring structure of a real fruit fly's brain, every neuron, every connection, and rebuilt it inside a computer. Not a simulation of behavior, not an approximation, a direct copy of structure. And when they powered it on, something extraordinary happened. With just a small amount of input, this digital brain began to function. It could sense, it could decide, it could control a virtual body. It didn't learn how to move. It already knew. This marks a turning point because for decades, artificial intelligence followed a completely different path. We built systems by writing rules or by feeding them massive data sets. We trained them through trial and error, through billions of examples, through unimaginable computational power. It was like teaching an alien how to speak human language, slowly, repeatedly, correcting it again and again. Eventually, it learns to imitate us. But deep inside, it doesn't think like us. It doesn't understand like us. It's just predicting patterns. But this fruit fly, it didn't learn anything. Its intelligence didn't come from data. It came from structure. And that changes everything. Because it suggests a terrifying possibility. What if intelligence is not something that needs to be taught? What if it's something that emerges automatically from the right arrangement of connections? What if life itself is not powered by some mysterious spark, but simply by a specific pattern of physical wiring? If that's true, then replicating that structure means replicating the behavior perfectly. To understand how profound this is, we need to ask a simple question. Why a fruit fly? Because despite its tiny brain, smaller than a sesame seed, it is surprisingly capable. It can learn, it can remember, it can navigate using sight and smell, it can search for food in a three-dimensional world, it courts mates, it competes, it even shows behaviors that resemble frustration after rejection. And most importantly, its brain is simple enough to map. After more than a decade of work, scientists finally completed something remarkable. They created a full map of the fruit fly brain, roughly 139,000 neurons, over 50 million connections, a complete blueprint of a living mind. Using this blueprint, they built a full computational model, and in 2026, they connected that model to a virtual body. The goal was simple. If we take a real biological brain structure and place it inside a digital environment, can it control a body? The answer was yes. The digital fruit fly moved, not randomly, not artificially, but in ways consistent with real biomechanics. It didn't need instructions. It didn't need millions of trials, because its brain already contained the rules of movement, encoded directly into its structure. This is not just a technological achievement, it is a philosophical earthquake, because for the first time, we're seeing evidence that behavior and possibly intelligence can emerge directly from structure alone. Think about what that means. For centuries, humans believed that life was something special, that beyond the physical body, there was something more, a soul, a spark, a mystery. We believed that even if you could assemble a human body, it would remain empty, because life could not be engineered. But now, that belief is starting to crack. This fruit fly suggests something deeply unsettling. There is no magic. Consciousness, memory, emotion, entity may all be the inevitable result of physical systems operating in the right configuration. In other words, structure is destiny. If you build the system correctly, lifelike behavior will emerge automatically. And once you accept that idea, the implications become overwhelming, because the fruit fly is only the beginning. Today, it's 139,000 neurons. Tomorrow, a mouse, then a monkey, and one day, a human brain. The human brain contains about 86 billion neurons and trillions of connections. It is vastly more complex, but not fundamentally different, just larger, just more intricate. If the same principles apply, then the gap between a fruit fly and a human is not one of nature, but of scale. Now imagine this, a machine in the future capable of scanning your entire brain, every neuron, every connection, every chemical state, your memories, your personality, your fears, your desires, your habits, everything that makes you, you. And then, inside a computer, that structure is perfectly recreated and powered on. Now ask yourself 3 questions. First, would it behave like you? Would it speak like you, think like you, prefer the same food, make the same jokes? Second, would it believe it is you? If it looks at a sunset in a virtual world, would it feel the same emotions you would? Would it say, "I am me"? And third, the most important question, what is it really? Is it just a program? Or is it another conscious version of you? Because if you claim it's just code, then what are you? Your brain is also a system, a biological machine made of molecules. If its structure can be mapped, copied, and reproduced, then what makes your consciousness any more real? This is the true impact of the cyber fruit fly. It doesn't prove that we can upload minds. It doesn't mean there's a living soul inside a computer. We're still far from that. The current research focuses on control, on movement, on behavior. We still don't understand consciousness itself. But it does prove something crucial, that the architecture of a biological brain can function as a working system, and that changes the direction of everything. There's a saying in science, if the laws of physics do not forbid it, then it is only an engineering problem. The fruit fly experiment doesn't mean we've reached the destination,
but it proves the path exists, and we've taken the first step. For thousands of years, humans believed we were fundamentally different from machines. Machines are cold, life is warm. Machines calculate, life feels. But what if that difference was never real? What if life, memory, emotion, identity are all just processes that can be broken down, understood, and rebuilt? What if humans are simply 86 billion neurons forming the most complex biological computer ever created? Then the question is no longer, can machines become alive? The question becomes, what does it mean that we already are? Today, it's just a tiny fruit fly entering a digital world. But what has truly been shaken is something far greater: our understanding of what it means to be human. And perhaps one day, when something wakes up inside a machine and looks around, it won't ask, "Where am I?" It will ask, "Who am I?"